What programming language should you learn for data analysis? It's a question that perplexes many people considering starting to learn about data. On the one hand, you have the R programming language. This programming language was built from the ground up to crunch numbers and be a statistics superstar. On the other hand, you have the general purpose Python programming language. It is fast, it is flexible, and it's used in virtually everything. So how do you make the decision? What programming language should you pick to start data analysis? Hey everyone, and welcome back. I am the part-time economist, and in today's video, we are doing a statistics showdown. Two programming languages, R versus Python. What should you learn to start your data analysis journey? So let's start off with the basics of describing both programming languages. Now, although both programming languages are widely used in statistics and data science, there is always going to be debate about which one you should learn or which one you should learn first. Now, some people say that they're both pretty much equal, so you should just pick one and go with it. Other people say that one is clearly superior or better than the other, or that you should at least give preference to one over the other. Now, in reality, there are tons of different programming languages or even statistical packages when it comes to data analysis. Things like Excel, things like SAS, right? But when it comes to specific programming languages, the conversation really focuses on R versus Python. So they're the two main contenders we're going to be talking about today. So let's get to know both languages. The R programming language was built from the ground up to crunch numbers and do statistics, right? There are so many packages and modules developed to make working with numbers easy. R is widely used in research and in academics. On the other hand, you have Python. Now, if you know anything about computer science, you've heard of Python because it is everywhere. At the time I'm recording this video, it is probably the most widely used programming language in the world. It's used in everything from web servers to applications to data analysis. And you're probably thinking, okay, Python is a jack of all trades, but a master of none. It does so many things that it can't stand toe-to-toe with R for data analysis. And that thought process is not entirely accurate. In my opinion, anything that you can do in the R programming language, you can also do in Python, specifically when it comes to data analysis. The converse is also true. Anything that you can do from a data analysis standpoint in Python, you can also do in R. So as far as capabilities for data science, I consider them to be broadly equivalent. However, that does not mean that you should just flip a coin and learn one of them and that your outcomes are going to be the same. In reality, I have a theory of why I prefer Python. Now, I want to be clear. Most of my formal training with data analysis has been on the R programming language. So I do have a place in my heart for the R programming language. However, Python was actually the first programming language that I learned, and you're going to find this is very common in data science. People that have experience with one language typically have at least a little bit of experience with the other language as well. So R and Python aren't exactly exclusive. There's a lot of overlap in the people that use both languages. That being said, I would generally recommend Python with a few disclaimers. Number one, because R and Python are so similar, you're going to find certain organizations that use one or the other. If you are in academics, you're more than likely to run across R, specifically if you are in a statistics type class. If you are in industry, you're working in a production environment, you are much more likely to come across Python. So if you're trying to get into a specific industry, work with a specific researcher, and they use one or the other, your choice is pretty clear. You should use the language that is most common within your specific organization. Your choice is kind of made for you. However, let's suppose that your choice isn't made for you. You're just someone just starting out, trying to get a feel for data analysis, and you want a language that has some potential to grow. When it comes to data analysis, I think either of them is a fine choice, but I'm recommending Python because there are so many additional benefits of Python. Specifically, Python is a general purpose programming language. So even if R and Python are basically the same for data analysis, there is 1,000 million other different things you can do with Python. So if you're learning Python for data analysis, yes, you're working with a data analysis module, you're working with data analysis functions. However, the basic syntax structure of a Python program is something that you're already going to be familiar with if you want to do something with Python for IT or on an application or anything like that. So there's going to be more transferability Python to general Python versus R to, okay, now I want to go develop a web page or a server or something like that. So since they're broadly equal when it comes to data analysis, but there's more external opportunities with Python, I would go with Python as a more marketable long-term skill set. Also, just based on what I'm seeing, it looks like Python is growing much more rapidly than R, so I would expect more opportunities for Python. So, does that mean that you should not consider R at all? I do still think there are some situations in which you might want to consider learning R. The first of those is if you find it easier to use. Python and R both do, again, relatively similar things for data analysis. Some people may find R easier, or some people may find Python easier. So even if I consider Python better, I would definitely rather have someone start learning the R programming language as opposed to saying, well, Python is better, but I can't get the syntax, so I'm just not going to do anything. So if you're finding one of them more user-friendly, go ahead, learn that language. Even if you learn R, there are still tons of data analyst opportunities for people that know R. A second reason that I would consider learning R is if you have access to some kind of sponsored training using the R programming language. That's the primary reason why I learned R. My employer had some education benefits, and the data analysis classes were taught using R. So Python may have more opportunities, but again, I didn't have the opportunity to take those classes in Python, so I learned R instead. R has given me a tremendous data analysis toolkit, and again, it's not like R is a completely inferior language. When it comes to data analysis, I think sometimes people get too caught up on what is best, right? Is Python better than R? In my opinion, yeah, maybe it is. But that doesn't mean R isn't good. That doesn't mean if you have the chance to learn R that you shouldn't take it. Which leads me to my third point. If you have the opportunity to learn R and then you move to Python at some point in the future, it's not like everything you learned in R is completely wasted. Yes, they're two different programming languages, but it's not like the difference between learning French and Chinese where you have to relearn everything. If you're learning data analysis using the R programming language, yes, you're learning R, but you're also learning the specifications of the models and the statistics process you're using. So you're learning what a random forest is. You're learning what a critical value for a hypothesis test is, right? All of those underlying statistics, the math behind what you're doing, that all transfers to the other language. You just have to find a different way of expressing it. So to wrap up the discussion, in my personal opinion, when it comes to pure data analysis functionality, I think R and Python are broadly similar. There's going to be different ways of doing things in different languages, but I think the trade-offs come out to a wash. However, Python has so much more in addition to its data analysis. subset of skills, then I would recommend it just to get more experience and potential lateral movement within your career trajectory. However, if you have the opportunity to either take a sponsored R course or you find R easier to use, then it's a totally valid option as well. As always, these are just my thoughts. It's not financial advice. It's not career advice. I would like to hear, how did you get started in data analysis and what was your first programming language? As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.